The wind picked up sharply outside the window, but the room was as warm as spring. The man across from the sofa was dressed in a sharp suit, tall and slender. His face still had the same defined features and deep-set eyes as when he was 18, except for a fresh cut on his temple, which stood out jarringly. An hour earlier, I'd gotten a call from the police station. Ethan Carter had gotten into a fight. When I rushed over, a woman was holding his face, gently tending to his wound. I recognized her, Sophia Miller, our high school classmate. At the sight of me, she jumped back like a startled bird. Ethan immediately stepped in front of her to shield her, saying disapprovingly, "She's timid. Don't scare her." I said nothing and followed the officer to handle the paperwork. By the time I finished and returned, Sophia was gone. On the drive home, Ethan didn't say a word to me. He was on the phone the entire time. Even now, he was still coaxing the woman on the other end in a soft, gentle tone. I'd never seen Ethan like this, his eyes soft with tenderness, doting, and complete focus. He was giving Sophia every bit of his patience. It was in that moment that the thought of divorce first crossed my mind. If Ethan and I were childhood sweethearts, then Sophia was the unattainable white moon he'd always loved. We'd met in high school. Unlike Ethan and me, who came from wealthy families, Sophia was a low-income student in our class. She was beautiful, top of her class, optimistic, and driven. The moment she transferred into our class, she'd caught Ethan's eye. Once, I'd thought Ethan's interest in Sophia was just a passing fancy. That changed the day Sophia was falsely accused of stealing the class funds. A few girls had dragged her into the girls' bathroom. By the time I got the news and rushed over, the girls were already gone. The bathroom was empty except for Sophia, whose shirt had been torn off. I took off my jacket, ready to go in and help, when Ethan stepped out of a stall, holding Sophia's clothes in his hands. Sophia had her back to him, her voice trembling with tears. "Just go. If anyone sees this, we'll never be able to explain." Ethan replied, "Then we won't explain. Put your clothes on first." They stood in a standoff for a moment before Sophia finally gave in. But for some reason, she couldn't fasten the buttons on her bra. Without hesitation, Ethan said, "Let me." His expression was solemn, his movements clumsy and awkward. After he fastened the last button, I clearly saw the tips of his ears turn bright red, as if they were about to bleed. He turned, and our eyes met. A flash of panic crossed his face, but he quickly regained his composure and walked toward me. "You're just in time. Can you help her?" After we walked out of the bathroom, he turned back to warn me, "Please keep this to yourself." I agreed. But that afternoon, photos of Ethan helping Sophia get dressed spread across the entire school. Ethan was convinced I'd betrayed him. That day, he lost his temper with me for the first time. "Olivia Bennett, don't think just because my parents back you up, I won't do anything to you. You're their choice for a daughter-in-law, not mine. No one gets to decide who I marry." I pressed my lips together. Believe me or not, I had nothing to do with this. Ethan scoffed. "You were the only one there that day. Who else could have seen it, if not you?" "It wasn't me." I lifted my chin, my voice firm. "And besides, why would I spread rumors about her?" "Because you're jealous that she's with me." My head spun. I stared at him in disbelief. When did that happen?" He looked back at me, his eyes full of mockery. "I saw her. I have to take responsibility for her." "But He cut me off impatiently. "Olivia, you can't possibly think I've been looking out for you all these years because I like you?" I felt as if I'd been plunged into an ice cave, unable to move a muscle. That night, the Carter family found out about Ethan and Sophia. Later, Ethan's father dragged him to my house to apologize. Ethan held his head high and said something outrageous. "If you like Olivia so much, why don't you marry her yourself?" Both sets of parents ended up yelling at him. Back then, Ethan hadn't understood the situation or noticed that I'd been raised since childhood to be his wife. As the Carter family's only son, he had no say in who he married. So in the end, he still married me. After the photos were exposed, Sophia transferred to another school not long after. When the college entrance exams ended, Ethan was sent abroad to study, where he stayed for 8 years. 8 years later, he returned home to take over the company, and his entire demeanor had changed beyond recognition. He'd shed his youthful awkwardness and become calm and reserved. He found me and proposed marriage. "Since we're both still single, let's do it." I knew I couldn't escape the arranged marriage. Marrying someone I knew well felt like a small stroke of luck. It was only later that I learned Ethan had gone to find Sophia the moment he returned to the country, but she'd refused him with dignity. Marrying me was just his way of getting back at her. I need to go out for a while. You should go to bed first, Ethan said, pulling me out of my thoughts. He stood up and walked toward the door, his voice soft as he spoke into his phone. Don't be scared. I'm on my way. They won't dare do anything to you. Lock the door and wait for me. I stood up too. It's so late. Do you really have to go out? He paused for just a second before continuing toward the door. Something came up last minute. I'll be back late. When he was almost at the door, I called out to him again. A hint of irritation flashed across his face. Is there something else? Ethan, I said, let's get a divorce. Anger instantly clouded Ethan's eyes. He forced himself to stay calm and said, what are you throwing a fit about now? Sophia was scared today. She has no one here to rely on. She had no one else to turn to but me, he explained. I looked at him steadily. Is helping her showing up every day at the lounge where she works to stand up for her? Is helping getting into a fight with someone and ending up at the police station? All for a waitress? That's the help you're talking about. Ethan's lips pressed into a cold, sharp line. His dark eyes held a dangerous warning. I'll get to the bottom of what happened tonight. He paused, then added, and I hope you had nothing to do with it. It was like someone had dumped a bucket of ice water over my head. My blood felt like it had frozen in my veins. In the more than 2 years we'd been married, Ethan had never lost his temper with me. For a while, I'd even thought he'd let go of Sophia and was ready to build a real life with me. Now it turned out that had all just been my wishful thinking. A memory suddenly popped into my head. Ethan's study had once hung a portrait of Sophia, painted by Ethan himself. He hadn't hidden it from anyone, not even the rest of the Carter family. His grandfather had flown into a rage over it. The argument had only ended when Ethan hung our wedding photos in the study instead. He'd locked that painting away in a cabinet. In that moment, I suddenly realized he hadn't compromised at all. Instead, he was waging a silent battle against his family in his own way. The wind howled even more fiercely outside. The balcony door leading to the dining room had been left open. A gust of cold air swept in, and I couldn't help but shiver. Just then, a shrill scream came through Ethan's phone. Almost instantly, the menacing cold in his eyes shattered completely, replaced by overwhelming fear. He hurried toward the door, his voice urgent. Sophia, don't be scared. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Do not open the door for anyone. By the time he finished speaking, he was already out of the house. The door opened and closed, cutting off all his tenderness. Ethan didn't come back that night. I sat alone on the sofa until dawn. When the sky was fully light, I received 2 messages. One was a photo of Ethan and Sophia walking into a hotel side by side, and the other was a text. Divorce him. Choose me, okay? Scrolling up, I saw 3 unreplied messages from earlier. Olivia, I'm back. I'm here whenever you need me. Do you like him that much? Can't you like me instead? I blinked my sore eyes and quickly typed on the screen. Okay. Ethan didn't return home until the afternoon of the next day. He was wearing a brand new suit, one he'd never even glanced at before. He was neatly groomed, and there wasn't a trace of perfume on him. If it weren't for the obvious hickey on his Adam's apple, no one would have believed he'd stayed in a hotel room with Sophia until the afternoon. Probably out of guilt, he brought me a gift. I'm sorry. I said some harsh things to you last night. I apologize, he said, placing the gift in front of me. I took out the divorce agreement I'd long prepared from the drawer and slowly pushed it toward him. Take a look. Sign it if there's no problem. Ethan's brows furrowed tightly. It was just helping an old classmate. Do you really have to make a big deal out of this? Olivia, since when did you become so petty? I ignored his words. Our prenuptial assets were notarized. They belonged to each of us separately. We'll split the marital cash evenly, and for the houses, I only want the waterfront condo. Ethan finally looked at me seriously. His deep eyes were filled with suspicion. After a long moment, he let out a cold laugh. Is this some new trick you've learned? He didn't believe me. He thought this was just a way to win him back. It made sense. The Carters held significant status in the social circle. Countless wealthy families dreamed of marrying their daughters into the family. In his eyes, I had no reason to give up the title of Mrs. Carter. But I'd had the thought of giving up long ago. It was a normal day. Ethan had gone to a business dinner as usual, and he'd been sent home dead drunk. When I stepped forward to help him, he suddenly pointed at me and snapped, "Olivia Bennett, your love makes me sick." I froze in place. A bitter, aching feeling spread through my chest. I clearly remembered. He'd liked me once, too. Back in our first year of high school, Ethan and I weren't in the same class. Our classrooms were across the hall from each other. When an earthquake hit a neighboring province, we felt strong tremors here. That day, Ethan was the first to rush from his classroom to mine. He pulled his school jacket over my head, grabbed me by the arm, and dragged me down the stairs as fast as he could. The earthquake didn't cause any damage. The only injury I got was a bruise on my wrist from how tightly he'd held me. His friends teased him, saying I was his precious possession. Some even joked that we should get married right then and there. I'd expected Ethan to get angry, but instead he said, "We will get married." "Oh, don't make promises you can't keep. You're still years away from the legal age," one of them teased. Ethan replied firmly, "If she's not the one beside me when I get married, none of you are allowed to come." When we got married, all his friends came. But what good did that do? Ethan was convinced I was using playing hard to get to threaten him. He sat across from me, staring at me coldly. Every time we'd fought before, I'd been the first to back down. So he assumed I'd given again this time. But he had no idea I was dead set on getting a divorce. I pulled the divorce agreement toward me, picked up a pen, and under his cold gaze, flipped to the last page and signed my name. Then I handed him the pen. "Sign it if there's no problem." In that moment, Ethan finally realized I wasn't joking. He darkened his expression, his voice dropping to a low, gravelly tone. "You sure about this?" I checked the time. "If we go to the courthouse now, we can still make the last appointment of the day." He said nothing. His dark eyes bore into me, as if searching for a crack in my resolve. After what felt like an eternity, he finally looked away. "Fine, let's divorce," he said, signing his name. Suddenly, he paused with the pen. "Grandpa's birthday gala is next month. I want us to wait until after that to tell the family about the divorce." "I don't have a problem with that," I said, standing up and pulling out the suitcase I'd packed earlier from the corner. Ethan's voice sounded hoarse, almost like a sigh. "You can keep living here if you want." "There's no need," I replied. "If we're getting divorced, we shouldn't have any more ties. If you ever need anything later, just ask," he said again. I didn't stop to reply. When I reached the entrance hall, he hurried after me. "I'll drive you." "No, thanks." "Someone's coming to pick me up," I said. Downstairs, I saw a tall figure standing under the streetlight in the distance. When he spotted me, he strode over and naturally took my suitcase from my hands. Once we got in the car, I looked at the arrogant, distinguished man in the driver's seat. "Liam Thompson," I said, "give me a month." Liam let out a soft laugh. He leaned over to fasten my seatbelt for me. "A month? I can wait." Liam and I had been college classmates, both top students in the law school. We were classmates, but also rivals. We'd met at a major debate competition. The topic that time was, if you had a superpower that could make the person you love you back, would you use it? Liam and I had been on opposite sides. The debate was intense, and in the end, my team won. After the competition, he stopped me. If I had that power, I'd use it without hesitation. Back then, I was young, arrogant, and sharp-tongued. My words cut like a knife. "Then you're not worthy of being loved." Liam Thompson looked at me deeply. "I love her, but I also respect her. As long as I don't give up, she'll eventually see me." I smiled knowingly. "So even academic prodigies have unrequited loves." He remained silent, his gaze steady. Our interactions grew more frequent through student council work, each encounter a battle of wits. Over 4 years, we became unlikely friends. On graduation day, Liam invited me to a bar. "What are your plans after this?" he asked. I half joked, "What else? People like us get married, have kids, and secure business alliances for our families." Liam leaned in earnestly. "Can you wait for me? Just 5 years tops." The bar was too noisy. I didn't catch his words clearly. I downed my drink in one gulp. As I set the glass down, Liam suddenly kissed me. I fled in a panic. Not because of the kiss, but because I'd kissed him back. The loss of control terrified me. I turned off my phone and cut off contact. A week later, I learned from classmates that Liam had left for overseas studies. For years past. By the time he returned, I was already married. "We're here." I snapped back to reality. The car had stopped at my apartment complex. Liam carried my suitcase without offering to return it. In the elevator, he followed me to my door but didn't enter. Want to start a law firm with me? I was stunned. After marriage, I'd abandoned law to avoid scrutiny as Mrs. Carter. I'd only dabbled in small businesses, forgetting my legal roots. His proposal stirred something in me, but I hesitated. I'm out of practice. I'd just hold you back. Liam shook his head. You can do this, Olivia. You always could. He reminded me of our university debates, how I'd once left him speechless with my arguments. If you're starting over, take this step. His words convinced me. At nearly 30, I decided to live for myself. Days became a whirlwind of work, exhausting yet exhilarating. A month flew by until Grandpa Carter called. Olivia, why haven't you visited? Grandpa misses you. The Carters had always been kind, especially Grandpa, who spoiled me like his own granddaughter. I've been swamped with work, I said. Your grandmother sent a gown to the villa for my 80th birthday gala tomorrow. Don't forget. Later, in my walk-in closet, I found the sapphire blue evening gown crumpled at the bottom of a box. A large wine stain marred its silk fabric. I turned to Liam, laughing bitterly. Looks like you'll have to meet the family after all. He pinched my cheek playfully. I thought you'd keep me hidden forever. Fresh from the shower, he wore only a towel, water droplets trailing down his chest. My throat went dry. Stay tonight. We'd worked together daily, but never crossed boundaries. He'd occasionally shower at my place after trips, but nothing more. Once, we'd almost, but he'd stopped himself, wrapping me in a blanket until his breathing steadied. Are you unable? I blurted out. Liam froze, his eyes darkening. I just thought it wasn't the right time. I sighed. You're perfect, but so old-fashioned. It's like you're allergic to intimacy. He pulled me onto his lap. If you want me, I've never said no. His words flushed my cheeks. I squirmed to leave, but he trapped me. His lips claimed mine fiercely, the room dimly lit by a bedside lamp. His hands tightened around my waist, as if he wanted to fuse us into one. Shadows danced in the amber light, broken only by muffled moans that lasted into the night. We arrived late to the gala the next day. Neither of us had managed to leave the bed on time. My childhood friend smirked as we entered. Who'd have guessed rivals in debate would end up lovers? He knew everything. My arranged marriage, Liam's unspoken feelings. When I married Ethan, he'd asked, "You're really not waiting for Liam?" I'd stayed silent. Now he teased, "Lucky Ethan's blind. Otherwise, Liam wouldn't stand a chance." Just then, Ethan walked in with Sophia. My friend scoffed, "Ethan's getting worse. First he brought her to Grandpa's last gala and caused a scene. Now this." The memory hit me. What had happened at Grandpa's birthday? You didn't know? I shook my head. Work was so intense back then. I had no energy for anything else. My childhood friend explained. He brought her right in front of Grandpa Carter and said he was going to marry her. Grandpa blew a fuse, said if Ethan insisted, he'd have him struck from the family tree. Ethan was the only grandson in his generation of the Carters. For Grandpa to say something that drastic, you could only imagine how furious he'd been. But Ethan shut everyone up with one sentence. My friend said, leaning in. Guess what he said? What? He told them Sophia was 2 months pregnant. I pressed my lips together. This didn't surprise me at all. Ever since Ethan and Sophia had reconnected, I'd seen this coming. Unlike the high school version of Ethan, who'd bowed to his elders, the man running the company now was no longer under their control. He'd spread his wings, had the power to marry Sophia, and was finally going to fix the regret he'd carried since he was a kid. In the over 2 years Ethan and I were married, I'd never gotten pregnant. The Carters never said anything, but I could feel their eagerness to have a grandchild. Now, Ethan had used that exact desire to let Sophia stand by his side openly. Don't feel bad for yourself, though, my friend added. He got what he wanted, but his family still chewed him out for cheating during your marriage. Halfway through the gala, I stepped out to the restroom. On my way back, I heard shouting from the lounge. Ethan and Sophia were arguing. I drew closer and saw Sophia's red, puffy eyes. Are you regretting being with me? She asked. Ethan held a cigarette between his fingers. Stop overthinking. I just stepped out for a smoke. Sophia bit her lip. But as soon as Olivia left, you followed her. Through the haze of smoke, Ethan's voice softened. Be good. Go wait outside. Don't let the baby breathe secondhand smoke. Even though Sophia had grown up poor, she'd always had pride. She couldn't bring herself to beg Ethan. After a short, tense silence, she left, her face ashen. I walked past Ethan without a glance, but he called out to me. You and Liam Thompson, have you been in touch all these years? I paused and turned to face him. He stared at the floor, his expression unreadable. When did you two get together? I felt a twinge of exasperation. Ethan, we're divorced. This isn't a question you get to ask anymore. People passed by in the hallway, casting curious glances our way. Ethan tossed his cigarette into a standing ashtray, watching the embers flicker for a moment before turning and walking away without a word. The next time I heard about Ethan and Sophia was on the day Liam and I got engaged. After the engagement party, it poured rain on our drive home. Sophia flagged down our car, standing straight-backed in the downpour. Ms. Bennett, I need you to leave Ethan alone, she said. You're divorced. He's my husband now. I frowned, annoyed. What you're saying could easily misunderstand my fiancé. Please don't speak to me like this again. She looked mournful, her hair soaked and messy, a complete mess. But her eyes were unshakably firm. You must be so proud of yourself, huh? Your ex-husband can't stop thinking about you. And you got engaged to Lawyer Thompson right after the divorce. Sophia. I snapped. What are you really trying to say? She locked eyes with me. I haven't been able to reach Ethan in a whole day. Please contact him. Tell him I'll agree to a divorce if he comes back. With that, she turned and walked straight into the rain, not caring at all that she was pregnant. I hesitated, wanting to run after her with an umbrella, but Liam stopped me. Don't look. The Carter family's bodyguards are here. They won't let anything happen to her. I snapped back to my senses. Right. The Carters had waited so long for a grandchild. They'd never let Sophia come to harm. It was a shame she'd made the wrong move tonight. If she'd been smarter, she wouldn't have used the baby to force Ethan back. All she had to do was give birth, stay out of trouble, and live comfortably in the Carter household for the rest of her life. Liam, you didn't even get mad when she said all that. Liam smiled, lacing his fingers with mine and twisting the new engagement ring on my finger. You're here with me. Why would I be mad? I felt a faint twinge of regret. Liam was too rational, too quick to see through everything. I'd probably never get to see him jealous over me. But I never could have guessed that 2 hours later, I'd learn the consequences of making him jealous. And I was completely unprepared for it. While Liam was in the shower, Ethan kept calling. He'd ring dozens of times, hang up without a word, and call again. I was about to turn my phone off when it rang once more. I meant to ignore it, but accidentally hit answer. I don't have time for your nonsense, Ethan. I snapped into the phone. There was a pause on the other end before Ethan spoke, his voice cold. Do you really like him that much? I frowned. What are you talking about? The waterfront condo you insisted on. Was it because you could see his law firm from there? I hesitated, then lied. Yes. It wasn't the truth. I'd wanted that condo because Ethan had never set foot in it. I needed a place that wasn't tainted by his presence. Ethan suddenly let out a low laugh. I tensed. What's so funny? His voice dripped with sarcasm. So you never liked me, not even once. You've always loved him, haven't you? I did like you, once a long time ago. But now I love Liam. Stop calling me. I didn't deny having liked Ethan. Life was like a chess game. Once you made a move, you didn't regret it. I'd made peace with the imperfect parts of myself from every stage of my life. I hung up and turned around, only to be met with Liam's dark, icy gaze. I had no idea how long he'd been standing there, or how much he'd heard. After a tense silence, I decided to play dumb and headed for the bathroom. But as I walked past him, he grabbed my arm in a tight grip. The next second, he dragged me into bed. Liam, I haven't showered yet, I said, startled. He stared at me intently, so intently that I felt my skin prickle. Then he picked me up and carried me straight into the bathroom. What are you doing, Liam Thompson? Wait, didn't we say we'd take a bath? Together? I wanted to cry but could only stare in helplessness. Didn't you just finish washing? I'm helping you, he said. When Liam said he'd help me bathe, he meant it literally. He approached it with the same meticulousness he used for work, not missing a single spot. I punched him in embarrassment, only for him to yank me into the bathtub. That night, I learned just how strong Liam was and how skilled he was in other ways. It was nothing short of breathtaking. So much so that I couldn't get out of bed the next day. When my childhood friend called, I was using a massage gun to soothe my sore muscles. Did you hear Ethan's getting divorced? I froze, processing the words slowly. Wasn't he just married? My friend's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. Word on the street is he's doing it because of you. Wait, let me send you a video. A clip popped up on my screen moments later. It started with Sophia walking toward Ethan, her belly rounded with pregnancy. They were talking quietly, too quietly to hear. Sophia reached for Ethan's hand, but he hiked it sharply. She stumbled backward, barely catching herself before grabbing a wine bottle off the table and chugging from it. Are you out of your mind? Ethan snatched the bottle away, his face turning bright red with anger. Sophia smiled through her tears. You still care about me, don't you? Ethan's brows furrowed deeply. I'll have the driver take you home. I'm not going back. Not unless you come with me. Sophia placed a hand on her belly and sank onto the couch, her expression firm, paying no mind to Ethan's friends who were still in the private room. The chatter in the box fell silent. No one dared leave with the two of them fighting like this. After a long, tense standoff, Ethan spoke suddenly. Fine. Let's get a divorce. His eyes looked exhausted. I won't hold that high school incident against you. Just sign the papers. When the baby's born, I'll give you a sum of money. The video cut off there. What did he mean by that high school incident? I asked my friend. You remember that photo of Ethan and Sophia in the girls' bathroom? Sophia hired someone to take it. He clicked his tongue. Can you believe it? She was only 18 then, and already that calculating. No wonder Ethan fell for it. Even I, 5 years ago, wouldn't have seen through a woman that tricky. After hanging up, I sat on the balcony for a long time. The memories of the past were fading, but some feelings lingered. The truth had been late, but at least it hadn't been buried forever. Liam and I didn't have a wedding after registering our marriage. We took time off work and set off on our honeymoon. Our first stop was a small coastal town. I ran along the soft sand, the sea breeze in my hair, while Liam followed behind, acting as my personal photographer. When I grew tired, I lay down to rest under a tree. While Liam stepped away to take a work call, I saw Ethan. At first, I thought I was hallucinating, until he walked up to greet me. I wasn't happy to see him here. He chatted like we were old friends catching up. This place is nice. You mentioned wanting to come here before. I should have made time to bring you. You said there was a big rock formation nearby. I went to see it. It's perfect for photos. He paused, then added, and the hotel here has that. Ethan. I cut him off sharply. What do you want? Ethan fell silent. After a moment, he spoke in a voice only the two of us could hear. I got divorced. I already knew. My friend tracked Ethan's every move and sent me voice messages about him even when I said I didn't want to hear it. So I'd found out the second Ethan's divorce was final. According to my friend, it had all started with Sophia's alcoholic father. After learning Sophia had married into a wealthy family, he'd shown up at the Carter house every day to cause a scene. Overwhelmed, Sophia had given him money to make him go away. But soon, he'd gotten into gambling and racked up millions in debt. Sophia couldn't afford to pay it off, so she turned to Ethan for help. Ethan's condition was simple. He'd give her the money, but only if they divorced first. Desperate to get rid of her father, Sophia had agreed. She'd walked away with a large child support settlement. Tragically, after the divorce, Sophia couldn't keep giving her father money. One night, her drunk father had beaten her severely, and she'd lost the baby. Olivia, Ethan said, his voice softer and more tender than I'd ever heard it. I don't know what to do. I know nothing I say will make this right, but I still need to say it. I'm sorry. I pressed my lips together and said nothing. He went on, talking to himself more than to me. Once, I thought women should be like Sophia, needing to rely on men. Not like you, who can handle everything on your own. But then I started thinking about the past. I realized you reached out to me so many times. I just never noticed. Mr. Carter. Liam had appeared behind Ethan, his face dark with anger as he stared at Ethan. You're disturbing my wife's rest. Without another word, he bent down to pick me up in his arms. This isn't a good place to sleep. Let's go back to our room. Once we were back in the room, he still wouldn't let me rest. He acted like he was venting his anger, quiet, but relentless. Ethan stayed in the town for days, and Liam kept me up nearly every night. The worst part? Ethan seemed determined to follow us everywhere we went. On the last stop of our honeymoon, I suddenly fainted. The doctor's diagnosis: I was pregnant. He went over the precautions by my hospital bed, then turned to the two men standing beside me. Which one of you is her husband? Me. I am. Liam's glare at Ethan in that moment could have killed. Ethan looked awkward. He said nothing more, but he didn't leave the room either. I let out a huge sigh of relief. Finally, I'd get to rest for a while. The next day, instead of being in the hospital bed, I woke up in our own bed at home. I stared at Liam, who was smiling gently, confused. "What's going on?" "We drove back overnight," he said casually. I didn't think much of it, until a few days later, when news of Ethan being injured made the headlines. It had happened at the hotel in the third stop of our honeymoon. Someone had stabbed Ethan multiple times in a fit of rage. Fortunately, someone found him in time, and he barely clung to life. The culprit was arrested in less than 2 hours, and it turned out to be Sophia. In front of the cameras, her hair was wild and unkempt, and she grinned maniacally. "If I can't have you, no one else will. Our baby's dead. You should go join him, huh? Father and son can keep each other company, so you won't be lonely, huh?" The Carter family was furious. They pulled every string they had, and Sophia was sentenced to the maximum penalty. When Ethan woke up from his coma, he said he wanted to see me. I didn't go, Liam did. I never found out exactly what they talked about, but afterward, Liam spared no effort to go up against Carter Group. On his own, he cut the company's annual profits in half. By the time Ethan fully recovered and returned to work, the group was already in decline. But that's a story for later. 9 months later, I gave birth to a daughter. Ethan turned into a total daddy's girl. Every night after work, he'd hold the tiny little bundle and refuse to let go. He doted on her so much, I even felt a twinge of jealousy. But that night, after he'd lulled our daughter to sleep, he carried a drowsy me back to our master bedroom. "Wife," he said, "I've been eating plain for so long. You owe me a little compensation." From the moment I got pregnant until now, a full year had passed, and he'd held back from touching me the entire time. In the end, I couldn't bring myself to refuse him. But then he pushed his luck, pulling out a set of clothes that barely covered anything and telling me to put them on. Men really shouldn't be spoiled too much. I'd been beaten by my dad, bullied by my classmates. When I had nowhere left to turn, I wandered to the corner tattoo parlor. I'd heard the owner was a street tough, fierce and ruthless in fights, and everyone around was scared of him. I pushed open the door, pulled a crumpled $10 bill from my pocket, and mustered up all my courage. "I heard you collect protection money, so can you protect me?" Through a haze of cigarette smoke, the man curled his lips into a scoff. "Whose kid are you? You've got some guts, I'll give you that." Later, though, he spent 10 years protecting me, all for that $10 bill. I was 14 when I met Jake Riley. Due to long-term malnutrition, I was short and scrawny, looking much younger than other kids my age. As far back as I could remember, my dad had been idle all day, doing nothing but laze around. Our little family of 3 relied entirely on the $3,000 my mom earned every month working in a clothing factory to get by.